Oh, hello. Sir David the Bard. I'm coming to you down here from the South Pole. I don't know if you heard, but a great big glacier broke off and is melting in the ocean, and by 2014, I think the tide is up 10 or 14 feet on both coasts. Well, a lot of the surfers in California are going to be surfing in Las Vegas. So anyway, I just wanted to let you all know that a new essay has been put out just in the last 24 hours by the Mormon Church. And these essays we knew were coming, and they have certainly stirred up the pot with what the Mormon Church thinks of the world and what the world thinks of the Mormon Church. Let me, I have a link, so none of you can say I'm lying. It's the actual Mormon link to the essay. The essay, as usual, has no date on it and tries to pretend that they can have deniability if it goes wrong. Okay, here it is, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's right here on the link I gave you, and it's talking about the religious persecution in the 1830s and the 1840s. Now, I'm not going to get on one side or the other of this issue. The Catholics in Ireland and the Reformation, French popes and other religions have certainly had their heyday and their sad days of violence and hatred against other peoples who don't believe the way they did. The Mormon Church is no different. Here's some of the differences that are not mentioned in the article, and I think they should be, and that's why we have the internet, and that's why we have America and the freedom to express back and forth each person's opinion. There was a different time and a different place in the world. The Latter-day Saints have certainly been as violent as any other religion has been. Now, I'm not going to get into Mountain Meadow Massacre is in there and some other things, but let me say this. Did the Mormons ask for some of the violence that came upon them? And the answer is yes. They did. They're just like today. They're obnoxious. They're holier than thou. And in those days, when they traveled throughout parts of the United States, they wouldn't buy goods and services from the local communities. They were a cult, just like they are today. And they would go through these communities and say to them, we're going to settle here, and we're going to take all the lands east of the mountains. Well, all the farmers that own that land go, holy shit, the Mormons are going to take my land. So the Mormons did a lot of that stuff that upset and caused local people to hate them and to hassle them, and the Mormons did the same back to the people. Now, there's no mention that Governor Boggs gave Joseph Smith a charter to settle the city of Nauvoo. Everybody wants to say Boggs put out the extermination order. Well, did he put out an extermination order? In a way. He said the Mormons need to move out of here or they need to be exterminated. Kind of like cockroaches. So there's some basis for that comment. But people forget. It was after Joseph Smith burned the Nauvoo Expositor, freedom of the press. And the militia that Joseph Smith had built up was very threatening to the local communities. And there was just chaos. The Mormons caused so much chaos wherever they went. The tar and feathering that's mentioned in this article by the church, Mormon Church, is not as accurate as it should be. The reason that the crowd went and grabbed Joseph Smith out of his bed in the middle of the night and tarred and feathered him brought a doctor with them to castrate the great and mighty praise to the man. And at the last minute, the doctor chickened out, and Joseph saved his balls. Well, his balls then were broken over there in Carthage jail when he got shot and killed because of some of the things that he was doing. So, you know, the Mormons tangled into the Masons, they tangled into polygamy, they tangled into all kinds of social structures that was very upsetting to the general populations that they were in. So this article certainly whitewashes. Now, the Mountain Meadow Massacre is pretty accurate in this article, except it forgets one thing. It says that Brigham Young didn't know about it. Not true. Brigham Young did know about it and did order the people in Cedar City to kill all of the people down there that were coming through. And the reason that Brigham Young did that is Parley P. Pratt, his friend, was killed in Arkansas by Arkansas people. And when Brigham Young saw that this was an Arkansas wagon train, he wanted revenge. And he got it. They killed 120 men, women, and children in cold blood. They had them surrender their arms in the idea of peace, and then shot them in the face. For many, many years, the Mormons would not admit that the Indians were hired by the Mormons down there in Cedar City to help them. Many times the Mormons for years and years hid behind, it was an Indian attack, the Indians killed them. Well, this article is a little bit more accurate. Each time you squeeze a Mormon, you get more farts out of them, but sometimes you also get more truth out of them. So there's some things here that are not as accurate as they should be, and it's certainly whitewashing the situation. It certainly was more of the Wild West back in those days. Also, the idea of, they don't word it Johnson's Army, they just said it was the Mormon territorial dispute. But the federal government found out that it had been lied to so many times by Mormon prophets about polygamy, they came and sent an army to put the whole damn state down. And Brigham Young, you know, circled the wagons. He brought all the missionaries and the people back into Salt Lake City and dressed everybody for battle, and you know, gave very fiery and fighting word speeches, and you know, he flared the situation up more than it had to be. If he just quit polygamy, which was against the law, the United States government would have left him alone. Now, there is an article in here, or a section, on the Mormon-Missouri War and the Danites. Now, the Danite report is somewhat accurate. What's not accurate about it is, I want to say Norman Rockwell, it's not that. Porter Rockwell was one of the main people in the Danites. And they killed a lot, well, how many people? I don't know, 100, 150 people. If you left the Mormon church and they thought you were a threat to them, you could find yourself dead from a Danite attack. And I'm always saying here in my office and studio that the Danites are eventually going to get me. Who knows? Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Well, the church acts like the Danites disappeared. It was just a short period in history. Not true. Not true. There is a committee to strengthen the members, which is a secret society within the cult of the Mormon Church, that they spy on people who were members of the church or who disagree with the church or whatever. They get them excommunicated if they can, they get them fired from their jobs if they can, and they generally make their lives miserable. So to say that the Danite philosophy and the Danite purposes are all gone, it's not true. It's plain not true. So anyway, read there, the Missouri War and the Danites. Violence in the Utah Territory, yeah, they wouldn't stop polygamy. That's not even mentioned. I didn't even saw the word polygamy. Never even saw the word polygamy. When it came to Joseph Smith and Brigham Young, two of the greatest polygamists of the Mormon history, there was not even a word in here on polygamy. So, you know, how accurate can this article be? The relationship with the American Indians, I thought was a little more truthful than I knew. You know, I knew that generally the Mormons got along with the Indians, but there were some rubs and some little places where they killed each other and whatever. So I thought that one was pretty good. And the Reformation and the Utah War, you know, that's where Brigham Young was standing up and screaming and yelling and pounding the podium and causing all kinds of violence in the area. And then the Mountain Meadow Massacre is there, and it's pretty accurate. It's the most accurate rendition I've ever seen since I was a member of the Mormon Church for 50 years. Brigham Young did know about it. They say he didn't know about it, but I have evidence that I've looked at through the internet that says he definitely knew what was going on down there. And the state president would not have gone forward with that massacre if he had not been ordered to do so by Brigham Young. Then there's a conclusion, and you know, it's a little bit, well, yeah, I would say a little bit whitewashed. It's not grossly whitewashed, but it is whitewashed. So anyway, look it up for yourself. Look at the article, take a look at the link, then go on to the computer and find out what honest people say. And it's a wonderful world that we live in, that the Mormons released that last night. And here I am the next morning, within 2 or 3 hours of its release, telling you my opinion of it. I was a member of the Mormon Church for over 50 years. I went to 4 years of seminary. I went to BYU and graduated. I worked in the Mormon temples. I've been married in the Mormon temples 3 times, time and eternity. And I taught elders quorum for years and years. So these are my opinions and my knowledge of searching the internet, searching the books. I've read the Journal of Discourses. I've read McConkie's, which is now banned book in the church. I've read the comprehensive history of the church, etc. So I'm fairly well read in the background of the Mormon church, and this is the closest admission that I've seen of the Danites and the violence of the Mormons, and it's all covered up with, we had to do it, we had to do it. Now, one of the things that was mentioned in there was Kirtland, that the Mormons were driven out of Kirtland. Well, let me tell you, they don't tell you in the article that Joseph Smith printed his own money, monopoly money. And he went to the Mormons and said, here's a $20 monopoly that I just printed. Give me a $20 bill from the United States. So anyway, he got driven out of Kirtland by his own people. They wanted their money back. He tried to put in a banking system, and he screwed the people, and the members of his organization drove him out of Kirtland. This doesn't say anything about that. Not one word. So anyway, look at it for yourself and determine for yourself. If you want to have health in the navel, marrow in the bones, strength in the loins and the sinews, power and priesthood be upon me and upon my posterity through all generations of time and throughout all eternity. Bard gone.